I love hearing your story. I'd love to hear it again. So tell us about your story of when you started practicing medicine, and then how you're here today.
Okay, well, I graduated from the University of Kansas Medical School in 1967. I interned with the Army at Letterman General Hospital in San Francisco from 67 to 68. And then I went into flight surgery training, and as a flight surgeon, I was in Alabama, and then we were stationed in Europe, in Verona, Italy, and then up in Heidelberg, Germany. When I was in Verona, I was the flight surgeon for the station there, and it was during that time, as I mentioned to you, that I got my first really eye-opener of how supposedly competent people with knowledge and can make stupid mistakes and even deadly mistakes. And this first one was when I was supposed to be on a flight to go from Verona to Milan, Italy, to pick up the new two-star commanding general for what's called the Southern European Task Force. The executive officer and operations officer were on the flight, but I didn't get on it because I wasn't notified of it. So, which is fortunate. So they fly and pick up the general, and instead of taking off safely, they crash and kill the general and the executive officer. And it was because they were pointed at the short end of the runway. With all the experience that both of these pilots had during NAM, of probably the total of around 10 or 12,000 flying hours, they didn't even check the compass on their dash of the airplane to tell what direction they were going. So they ended up killing two people, and the executive officer got hepatitis C out of this, and other things. So that was my really first eye opener, that people supposedly knowledgeable didn't do things right. And then I went to when I was in practice, which started in 1974 in Spokane as an ophthalmologist. I had took my ophthalmology residency back at the University of Kansas. So in about 1997 or so, I went to a meeting in Las Vegas. It was a alternative medicine. It was by the organization called American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine. And all the people that were presenting were MDs and PhDs from major universities. And I like, sometimes you go to meetings, you plan to go for a couple hours and then dodge out. So actually, at that meeting, I spent 4 straight days from 7 in the morning till 7 at night, listening to information that I had never read, never heard about in medicine. And I said, holy smoky, this has got to change my life, which it did. So Betty and I both got started on bioidentical hormones and many other things. And that's when I learned at that first meeting, how important vitamin D was. And it's now just in the past few years, docs are beginning to understand that this is a really important thing. So we've been on high dose of that for 25 years or so, which has been a big help for us. So during the time I was in Spokane, I was the chief of staff at the hospital in the Valley, and also on the Washington Academy of Ophthalmology as secretary treasurer for 2 or 3 terms. And also later on, after I moved to Clarkston, Washington, I was also still on the trustees of the Washington Academy of Ophthalmology, and also on the Washington Medical Quality Assurance Commission, which is what it was called then. Now it's called the Medical Commission. And I had two 3-year terms. And the commission at that time was not political. They were doing what they're supposed to do, evaluate complaints by patients who I think have a right to complain and get some kind of result. And at the time, they were, like I said, not political, and they were doing the job. And so I retired about somewhere around 2010, 2012. These years kind of flow by after you retired. And I was actually, just kind of not doing very much. And then in the fall of 2020, the local paper, the Lewiston Tribune, had put out a request for conservative writers. And I have always read, I've always kept up on medical and political things. And it was very interesting to me to do that. And a Friday night before this announcement came out, I was sitting at my chair reading, and I had the thought, I said, God, I love to read and know this stuff, but I think you want me to do something with it. And so 2 days later was the announcement in the paper that they were looking for conservative writers. And I had written many letters to the editor and actually paid for a piece about the 2016 election. And so they took me on and to write. And since January of 21, I've written about 38 articles, including the one published on October the 1st yesterday. So the second article, I took on the whole thing because I'd been reading and understanding how wrong this was. And a bunch of the local docs, 8 of them, as a matter of fact, wrote an op-ed to the paper saying how wrong I was. 5 of these guys were retired. One of them was actually my physician, and he kicked me out of his practice for what I had written because he said I was not understanding the suffering the patients were doing and going through and how difficult this was, and I was giving misinformation out. As it's turned out, everything I've written about has been vindicated and over the past 2 or 3 years, and especially recently.